Hey guys, welcome to Sked and I's Daily Fantasy Winners golf video stream. We're going to talk about the tournament this week, which I actually don't even know what it's called. What's it called, Sked?
It is the Valero Texas Open.
The Valero Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em. Texas Open. So it's the Valero Texas Open, and what we're going to do today is we're going to use FantasyLabs tools, and we're going to create a model specifically for the tournament this week, see who pops out, and just talk about who's rated highly and who Nick likes, and so on and so forth, and basically how to build a model. So right now what we have open is Colin Davies' model. So this is just the default model that comes when you use the PGA player models. It's really good. This guy is very, very smart. But what we're going to do is we're going to create our own model based on what Nick thinks, especially on what's valuable this week. Because actually what interesting what Sked was saying to me is he thinks that basically there's different things that are valued in different weeks, that you probably shouldn't have a model just for every week that's exactly the same. For example, driving distance is really important this week, right?
Yes, driving distance. It's for this tournament in this specific year. I think it's going to be very important.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to set well, I kind of want to make... what is going on here? Can I just create my own model? No, I can't. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Okay, so I'm just going to set all Collins to 0. Oh, no, here we go. Add. Max and Nick's model. Okay, so we're going to create our own model. And so the first thing I want to do is just talk about how we deal with people long term. Because you're just saying, well, we were talking about something earlier. So what do you think the most important things are with golf overall and just this week of what is valuable information? Is it someone who drives the ball long? Is it someone who's playing well recently? Is it someone who's just a good player? What are the important things?
Well, I would first start by saying, just obviously, if you're a good player, that obviously helps. But
yeah, we want the good players, definitely.
Yes, definitely. No, absolutely. It really does depend on what golf course you're playing as opposed to what weights you want. Because, like, I'll just use an example comparing from using last week in comparison maybe to a different tournament. Last week, the golf tournament was the RBC Heritage, which is at Hilton Head in South Carolina. It's a course that's really tight. It's pretty short, and it's basically got there's woods and trees all over the place, and you just have to hit the fairway. And if you look at it, like all the top golfers in the field, with the exception of Jason Day, and I still don't know why he played in that tournament to some extent, but other than that, like the top golfers in the field were like Zach Johnson, Matt Kuchar, Brandt Snedeker, some players like that. These are all golfers that are usually like shorter hitters and more like predicated on accuracy. And there's a reason why like golfers like Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson were not in this field, and you'll probably never see them in this field because they don't fit these courses that well. And so like there's definitely like something to be said, like for like pro golfers know this. It's like golfers are like certain golfers are going to perform well at certain courses and they fit better. And like especially when it comes to the most expensive players, when it's the cheaper players. They're just trying to keep their PGA Tour card, they're trying to make money and all that kind of stuff, so they're just going to pretty much play in whatever terms they get their hands on. So for this week in particular, like which is much different than last week, this is a much longer course at the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. Also, it rained. It's been raining like nonstop in Texas the last couple of days, and it's still raining there. So it's going to even play particularly long this year, even in comparison to previous years. And so in the past, like you'll notice that like at this tournament, driving distance is just kind of like it's like kind of important, but not really that important. It's kind of a little bit more just it's not really predicated so much on like longer hitters or shorter hitters. It's kind of a balance. But this is a year because the course is going to play a lot longer, and there isn't that much trouble on the golf course. I think aggressive players going for like birdies and eagles and everything like that, and the longer hitters are going to be a better play this week.
Interesting. Okay, so let's just start with just creating the model. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy what Colin Davey has for long-term adjusted round.
Yep.
And so adjusted round is basically, this is just FantasyLabs' own statistic that it basically takes into account the difficulty of the course and the strength of the field, and And the reason they use strength of the field is because you want to see, okay, everyone's shooting this particular score, therefore the course was tough, and they sort of play off each other. So basically, this is just a comprehensive stat of how good someone has been over the past 75 weeks. Before I had access to this, we just used basically what Vegas odds were, but this guy Colin Davey was a really good golf bettor, so this actually adjusted around might be a better way of determining skill than odds per dollar. So the other thing is, we talked about driving distance. You think it's really important this week?
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm curious, how much weight should we put on it? 10%, 15%, 20%?
Well, we'll see how the weights exactly shake out here, but I would say maybe in like the 10 to 15% range just for starters. Maybe up it slightly if we get to that point, but I would say 10 to 15 is probably a good start.
Okay, so let's do 15. So one thing actually we were talking about before that I thought was really interesting is, so FantasyLabs also has recent performance, and they have recent driving distance and recent driving accuracy, and you're just saying how ridiculous it would be to give any of these weights. Why?
Right. So the last 6 weeks, and just to clarify that, because I actually didn't slightly understand it at first myself, when they say the last 6 weeks, it's not the last 6 weeks in the calendar year. It's the last 6 weeks the golfer has played a tournament in.
Yes.
The other thing that's also, which is actually really cool about FantasyLabs, is found out is it's not just PGA Tour tournaments. It includes like European Tour tournaments, which is really beneficial for international players in particular. So that's really cool. The problem with this is 6 weeks, is obviously not a very big sample size, but obviously recent performance does matter some in golf. The reason why driving accuracy and driving distance is kind of like not that big of a deal when it comes to a 6-week sample is because the golf courses are much different and how you approach them are a lot different. And particularly this week, because if you factor in the last 6 weeks for a lot of these golfers, you're factoring in a lot of the Florida golf courses, and for the most part, the Florida courses are a lot more predicated on driving accuracy, where there's water like just off the fairway on like most of the golf holes. So a lot of the times they're hitting like fairway woods or utility clubs, things like that, and they're hitting different clubs. Whereas here in Texas, they're just going to be bombing drivers, pretty much for the most part. So it's just a completely different approach to it. So I just wouldn't factor it in so much. And everyone's playing different golf courses and they're different widths and blah blah blah. So that's just kind of why the last 6 weeks thing, I just wouldn't look into it too much.
Right, yeah, totally. I mean, basically, the summary is driving distance isn't just with your driver. It's with a lot of different clubs because different courses call for different approaches, and so it just could make very little sense.
Right, and it's like, also, because if we factor in driving distance on 75 sample, it's like that is plenty, that's enough of a sample where everyone's played enough different courses that we're going to get a good average. And it's not like Rory McIlroy is going to go from, a 320-yard driver to a 270-yard driver. Like that's just stupid. So,
right, exactly. Unless steroids. But what we do think is valuable is recent adjusted ground score, just overall recently over the past 6 weeks how well someone is playing. Yeah.
Yeah, that does matter some, just because we do have to factor in recent performance some. It just is kind of like generally overall, from an overall comparison, yes.
Okay, so let's weight this 15 as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't go as much as the 40 for sure. I would say 15, 20, somewhere in there is probably.
Okay, maybe we'll do 20, because... So then there's a couple small weight things we could do. So basically, we were talking about before, we talked about it, as Philson said. we talked about the eagles and birdies, and they're happening on the scores. So you said that long-term eagle and birdie score you thought might be, and score basically how often someone's eagling and
right.
birdie. You thought that should be a weight.
Yeah, I would probably weight the birdies a little bit more than the eagles, just because eagles, you have fewer actual opportunities. So, I mean, it is important, don't get me wrong, because eagles have such a big scoring in, when it comes to DraftKings scoring, obviously. But at the same time, it's like you still don't have that many opportunities exactly to get eagles. So I would just say, guys that are getting more birdies on a regular basis are just naturally going to be more likely to have eagle opportunities, generally speaking. So I would probably weight the birdies a little bit more than the eagles, but I would give a little bit of weight to both.
Right, okay. And then there's a lot of stuff to choose from here. One thing that we also mentioned was scrambling. You thought that should have a slight amount of weight?
Yeah, it should, just because if you have, short game over the last 6 weeks can just be whatever. But for over 75 weeks, there are definitely people that have better short games than others, and that should be actually absolutely factored in, because that's ultimately going to help you, just finish better, quite frankly.
Right. Okay, and then we have 5 more points to go. And I thought we should probably include a little bit of upside.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing is upside is sort of taken into consideration by the fact that we're valuing people of high driving distance and eagles and birdies. But it also upside can also take the form of someone who's just being more aggressive on third and fourth rounds when they're way behind. So I do think it should have a little bit of weight.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And it is important also just because like. I'll take like a guy like Dustin Johnson, for example. Like he's a very aggressive player and goes all out. Having said that, if he's somebody that like, he makes the cut, but he's in like 35th place or something going into the weekend, he mails it in a lot of the time and just doesn't try very hard. So I think it is important to wait a little bit of upside because there can be some differences.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. So, okay. So we have our model. We're going to update and see who we get. And I'm curious what you think. So it looks like JB Holmes is at the top. Do you think that this is a good assessment?
He was one of my top plays, actually, in the video.
Okay, well, there we go. See?
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, Nick was a little skeptical of this, but I was telling him it's good stuff. So, I mean, you can see some of the names. Bryson DeChambeau is actually interesting because he's an amateur, right?
Well, so he was an amateur at the Masters, and he turned pro, basically, the next day. And
interesting.
I don't know the exact specifics of it, but basically he needs to do well enough on his. He has like a few like exemptions basically to earn his PGA Tour card, and he did really well at the RBC last week, and now he's playing again this week. What's interesting about this is with DeChambeau is we just don't know a lot about DeChambeau because he hasn't played very much. And the other thing I'd just throw on this, he was 6,500, 6,600 at the Masters, which is understandable because it's a really great field of why he'd be really cheap. But then he was 8,000 at the RBC last week, and the RBC is about the strength of the field of what it is this week. And now he's all of a sudden 9,800, and because he played really well and just like, won kind of 2 tournaments. It's like, there's a lot of buzz about him, and 9,800 is a lot. I mean, like, I just think it's a lot of buzz, and I just feel like that's a big salary to commit, and I could be completely wrong on this. It's just a big unknown factor, and with the buzz about him, I'm kind of shying away from DeChambeau, but I want to root for him personally. That's beside the point. But
right, and I think that's what's actually one thing that FantasyLabs is going to have a hard time with is there's just not enough data on him. I mean, we literally have 2 tournaments. Where there's probably more, I guess, that he's played in the past, but there's obviously not very many tournaments. It's
a rare circumstance. So, like, this is a very rare circumstance.
Right, exactly.
In many situations.
Okay, anyone else up here that you particularly like?
I think I had to say Brandon Grace. Brandon Grace actually won the RBC last week. I think he's good in GPPs. He wasn't one of my top picks, but I think he'd be a player that would play well this week. Patrick Reed was kind of in the same boat. His recent performance has been kind of bad recently, which makes me I'm a little surprised he came up quite that highly. But he's still like a good player for GPPs. But the next guy, Brooks Koepka, was one of my top plays as well. So and so was Phil Mickelson. So actually, I see 3 of kind of like my top plays already up there. Oh, and actually Ryan Palmer, 8,500. He was one of my top plays as well at the mid salary. He actually was my top play, I should say. So that was the model's definitely spitting out some good things here so far.
Okay. Is there anyone on the list that you particularly don't like, or someone that you don't see that you particularly like?
Wow, Jonathan Vegas was actually one of my top plays. This is amazing. We're doing stuff here. As far as like anybody, I don't see, or I see that.
Well, apparently there's a guy named Luke List who can drive at 313 yards. So that has an insane driving distance.
I'm almost just ready to read off my entire top list picks like right now, pretty much, and I'm not even. This is amazing. No, this is doing great work. There really isn't anybody that I say. The only person, actually, I will say, Charlie Hoffman, I'm not that high on. I just think he's overpriced. I do think he fits this course decently, and he actually has been doing fairly well as of late. However, he just had like a huge price jump, and he is somebody that just does not play well on Sundays or on the weekend, generally speaking, very, very much at all. And so if I'm going to pay that price, I want someone who I actually think is going to win the golf tournament. I think there are players that are cheaper that actually have a better shot at winning the golf tournament. So Hoffman's the only one that I really have I put a little bit of a red flag on. But having said that, I understand why it's putting it up there based on he's kind of fits the course decently.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's all that we came here for. Make a model, see what it spits out, see what you think. Yeah. Anything else before we go?
No, this is great stuff. This is just amazing because I'll just full disclosure here. I was a little bit skeptical here with how it would necessarily spit out this, and we just kind of mess with the variables here a little bit, and it's spitting out something great. So this is something I'm definitely highly recommending for people to give a shot and try out.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think one emphasis is that I think is your unique spin is that you don't think there should be a model that is just like we keep the same every week. Depending on the course, depending on what it needs, you're going to weight different things. So
Yes.
it's something that you should keep in mind and definitely listen to, watch some of Nick's videos to see what you should be favoring in your models if you choose to sign up for Fantasy Labs. And by the way, click the link below, sign up. You can try it out for, I think, a week for $15, maybe a few days. Anyways, please click the link below if you want to sign up. So thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your golf lineups, and make sure to watch Nick's video. That's a longer, much more detailed video called Tee to Green before you make your lineups this week. See you guys later.
Yep.